Are you ready to get woke? Welcome to the Woke as podcast with your host, Alex Lazarev.
Boom! What's going on, world? This is Alex Lazarev, and welcome to the first episode of the Woke as podcast. If you're here right now, I pretty much guarantee you're already on the path. If you've been paying any attention whatsoever, you know there is a huge awakening going on planet Earth. Every single day, almost, it seems, I'm having either some kind of, quote, synchronicity happen or some other bit of magic that's inexplicable. And I just keep running into more and more people who are just experiencing the same stuff, like we're living in a magical realm. People are realizing reality is not what it is being presented as. This is not base reality. This isn't what it is. People know deep down we are not these physical human beings. This is not what we are. This is just a journey. We are something far, far greater than what it appears to be. And this information, which, by the way, has been around for thousands of years in great teachings, different cultures, we're talking way back before they even admit to that there is human history. But the powers that be currently, they do not want us to wake up. They do not want us to realize what we truly are. And nevertheless, it's happening. It cannot be stopped. It will continue to happen until all of humanity is conscious, is woke to what we are, to our potential, to the fact that we are all one. So, my friend, if you're listening to these words right now, congratulations. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, you are on the path to enlightenment, to liberation, to freedom, to self-realization. You're already here. You're already doing it, so you will get there, even though it's the process. It's the doing, it's the being, it's the journey that is the most beautiful part. But whatever peace of mind, whatever, amount of love, compassion, knowingness, whatever it is you need more of, that you feel is there, that you know you can get to, it's coming. Believe me, it's coming. If it wasn't coming for you, if you weren't already on the path, you would not be listening to these words right now. You wouldn't be. You'd be like the rest of the, sleeping zombies, sheep, whatever you want to call them. And God bless them all. I'm going to be talking about the unconscious beings, humans, non-humans, whatever. But I'm really going to try be stay in my heart. They're just not on the journey yet. They will be. They're going to wake up. They're going to come around. They're just not yet. And we just have to be patient and accept that they're on their journey and they'll get there. But you right now listening to these words, you're already on it. You're already on the journey to getting 100% woke. Now, if you're listening to this, you're definitely not 100% woke, because when you get enlightened, apparently the energy is so high and so powerful, the human body can't contain it. So if you were 100% woke, you would have left. You wouldn't be here right now. Now, if you were 0% woke, you wouldn't be here either, okay? Because you'd be too busy in the matrix, doing matrixy things, worrying about stuff and drinking and smoking and destroying your body and listening to the government and believing the stories that you're told. And you'd be in that low frequency nightmare that we're all coming out of. You'd be in it right now. You would not be here. You couldn't listen to this. This wouldn't make sense. You would have checked out at minute 2 from this podcast, okay? So really, you're on the journey. It's happening for you. You're going to get there. And that is the reason I've created this podcast. I'm not doing this for me. I don't even exist, but we'll get to that later. I'm doing this because I was called to do this. Source said, this is what you're going to do now. Chop, chop, a-hole. Let's go. What are you waiting for? And I was like, all right. And the more I put it off, I was just like, holy shit, I have to do that. I really want to do, oh my God. So I didn't have a choice. I have to do this. It makes no difference whether millions of people will hear these words in the future, or it'll be like 43 amazing humans who are like, this is the best thing ever. It doesn't matter, because I have to do it. I have to get this information out there. I want to share my journey and get other people on the show who are going to help us all get to realization, to figure this thing out together. So that's the little intro. And that's what the podcast is going to be. You know, I didn't want to come on here and you know, be a guru or, you know, someone who's telling you what you need to do or what you're supposed to do or how you're supposed to live. I'm not interested in any of that. I am a seeker. You know, I'm an infinite being in a human body here to do some stuff, some important stuff, which we're all here to do. We all have a purpose. We're all here for a reason. And I just want to do a show where I share my journey. And believe me, it ain't pretty, all right? I've done some stupid things. I'm just as messed up as everyone else. You know, I'm a human for now. I'm a human, which means I've got human problems, same as everyone else. So I want to share my journey and what I've learned and what's happened to me and the process I'm in right now and where I'm at now in the hopes that, you know, some of this stuff will resonate. You know, some of it you'll think, yep, okay, awesome. It's not just me, or maybe you'll learn some things from me that you haven't figured out. Maybe you'll teach me some things I haven't figured out. But I just want to put it out there so you beautiful beings on the journey know you're not alone. It's not just you waking up. It's not. There's tons of us. I don't know. I think it's millions. It must be millions. Maybe it's only hundreds of thousands, but it is a lot of people. A lot of people are snapping out of it, you know? So that's what I want to do. So I'm going to share my journey in this first episode because, you know, that's just a good place to start where I'm at. And then I'm going to be interviewing other people that are on the journey, other people that are on the path to getting woke, to getting 99.999% woke. Because you know what? I want these awesome people around. I don't want them to leave the body. So I'm looking for people between 1% and 99.9% woke. That's what I'm looking for. And yeah, and it's funny because as this is being recorded, I'm not even sure which tagline we're going to go with for the podcast. I've got it down to two, which I love. Enjoy the journey, which is really important. And it's going to be something we'll be bringing up a lot. It's the journey, not the destination. But really it's both. But it's the journey. And the other tagline being, you know, are you ready to get woke? And that leaves a lot of potential for funny jokes. And I like the term woke. It cracks me up. So I'm gonna be saying that a lot anyway, no matter which one of those we went with upon the release of this podcast. So we'll be having some amazing people on here sharing their shit, you know, sharing their journey, sharing what they've learned. People who are right at the beginning, who are exciting, who are like just snapping out of the dream and like, oh my God, it's all, holy crap, I can't believe it. Those people will be here. And people who have been on it for a really, really, really long time, who are, you know, near the end of their journey, where they're there, you know, and everything in between. Okay, so that's what's going to be happening here. So yeah, enjoy it. And please, I'm doing this for us all. So it's up to you guys to comment, tell me, give me feedback, write things, post things, make videos, send me messages, whatever. This is for us. You know, if you have somebody, you hear an amazing story, you want to share it, you know somebody who should be on the show, whatever, I don't care. Post about it. Let us know what's going on. Think of this as your community, your conscious community for awakeners, for seekers, for people who are on the path. This is for us. It's you. It's me. It's all of us. Okay? And we will announce where our little community is going to be online shortly, but we'll make that announcement in the Woke newsletter. So get on the newsletter. It's woke.as. That's where you get on. Get it? Woke as, dog. Oh man, that's so good. If you're wondering how the hell we got that domain, American Samoa, everybody. American Samoa. That's how we got the domain. All right, so before we bring in our guest, I guess I should talk a little bit about myself. It's so weird talking about myself now because I've been hanging out down here with our first guest, Josh, for a couple of weeks now, and I've just become so much more aware of my ego construct thing, where I think I'm this guy and I'm doing all this great stuff and I'm so great, blah, 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 and it's all just a story and it's all a bunch of shit. You know, it's like we're all just consciousness in bodies, and I'm starting to believe less and less that I'm actually making any decisions or doing anything. You know, I'm just doing what I've made an agreement to do a long time ago, and I'm just following the script, and I'm just pulled in to do exactly what I'm called to do, and it's almost like there's no choice at all other than to like completely ignore what excites you or just do what excites you, which is following the script. So this whole like Alex Lazarev comedian guy, or this whole Sasha Daygame pickup guy, and all this, I just don't really I don't connect with any of it anymore. So it's weird for me to like, hey guys, I'm so cool. Look at all this shit I've done. Like, who gives a shit? I don't even care. So I don't want to put you guys through it if I don't even care. You know what I'm saying? Even though it is interesting, it's been an interesting life, but I just don't even want to talk about it. So I'm going to do the absolute minimum here. and just say that I've done stand-up comedy my whole life. And that was an amazing time, and I learned a lot about myself. I used to be very, very cocky and arrogant and just fucking pain in the ass. I wouldn't listen to anybody. I was totally up in my own head, trying to prove myself all the time, trying to be the funniest guy in the room. That was my 20s. And then I got into the whole, dating arena. And that was a whole ego trip as well. Yeah, fucking ridiculous. Being a YouTube dating guru type figure. Yes, that's right. People who tune in this like months or years from now will be like, "What the hell is this guy talking about?" And then they'll go look it up and be like, "What the hell is this?" And they'll have a fucking laugh. But I've had lots of, I guess what you would call mystical experiences, and I've just realized that the reality we're presented is totally fake, totally false. None of it is real. In fact, we're in a system that does everything it can to keep us separated from the ultimate truth, which is that there is no separation and that we're all one. And I've experienced that oneness. And I think anybody that experiences that oneness wants to be in that oneness all the time because it's blissful. It's just, best thing ever. And it's a solution, I think, to all the world's problems at the same time as being a really good time. So why wouldn't we talk about that? But it started off in 2009. I was still in my pickup phase, so I was going around picking up girls all the time. I came out of this mall in Toronto, and there was this cute little Japanese girl giving out flyers, and I started talking to her because I want to pick her up. And we started talking. Turns out she was married, but we ended up talking for like 40 minutes or something, long talk. And she was with this. She was flyering for this guy called Ryohu Ohara, I believe. Yeah. Okara or anyway, Raihu Ohara, and he's got this this kind of religious group called Happy Science, which sounds really creepy, Happy Science, it sounds a little bit culty, but the whole group was just about spreading this one truth, which was reincarnation is real. Get with the program, and they had certain spiritual truths and stuff. It was pretty good stuff, but fundamentally, it was telling people about reincarnation, and I had this great chat with this girl, and for some reason, she thought I was special, and she said, "Look. I've got this one book left, and I only give these to special people, but do you want to have this one book? Are you going to read it?" I was like, yeah, I'll read it. She's like, okay, I'm going to give you this book. So she ends up giving me this book. And so I had this crazy experience, which I told you already, and I've shared on one of my YouTube channels. But basically, I was walking into the subway, and there was this fucking crazy lady on the street, just absolutely out of her mind, screaming top of her lungs, flipping her shit out, and everyone around was like getting away from her. Like it was so uncomfortable. It reminded me of my mom, actually. It's kind of fucked up. And this, I was reading this book as I was, just going downstairs, and the book was actually about the 9 levels of, the 9 dimensions people go to based on how they live their lives. And it was a fascinating book. And I remember, this was a long time ago, but we're on the 3rd dimension, and like if you live your life pretty well, you're on the fourth dimension, and if you're even better, you're on the 5th. And if you dedicate your life to helping others, you're on the 6th dimension. It's just like, it just goes up and up. And then like Jesus was like on level 9, and all these gurus were like on level 9. So it was this whole, and it was just, but he wrote about it in such detail. It was just sucked you in. I was just like, this is insane. And it kind of felt like it was true. I just felt like, yeah, I think this makes sense. Anyway, I've been reading this book. It's very interesting. And as I walked by this lady and I went down in the subway, I just had this thought pop up in my head, which was just like, go and talk to this woman. And I thought, that's a weird thought. Like, no one wants to talk to this woman. She's fucking nuts, and she's screaming at the top of her lungs. But I just had this intuition that I'm supposed to do it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go talk to this crazy lady. And I walked up to her, and I tapped her on the shoulder. And she was absolutely gone. Like, her eyes rolled. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody who's completely not here. And her eyes were actually up in her head. And they actually rolled down and looked at me. And she was like, what, hey. And I was just like, hey, why are you screaming? And she's like, oh, I'm screaming because my husband left me and he took the kids. And I was like, all right, how long you been screaming for? She's like, 3 years. I'm like, okay. And I just started talking to her and just had a very human conversation. I'm just like, okay, well, are your kids homeless? She's like, no, they're with him. I'm like, are you on the street? She's like, no, I have an apartment. I'm like, well, that's not so bad. You have an apartment. Your kids are safe. They could be in Iraq getting killed. This was there was war at that time. Well, there's always war these days, but and I just had a really just a human conversation. I remember asking her do you really want to end up being one of these crazy people walking around the streets? And she's like, no. And I was like, well, don't then. What are you doing? And she's like, yeah. And I said, do you believe in God? And she says, yes. And I said, well, he's going to take care of all of us. But you have to do your part. You have to get your shit together here. And I just had a nice chat, and I gave her like a hug at the end, and she thanked me. She walked away at peace. She just walked away, and she got on the bus and she left. So I was like, okay, cool. And I go downstairs in the subway, and at first I was thinking, okay, well, I felt some sort of joy rising in me, and I thought, okay, that's it. I guess I feel happy because that was a nice thing to do. That's cool. And I just started thinking more, and I just had this thought cross my mind as I was getting onto the train, which was like, I guess what I've done is I've helped another soul on her journey. And I thought, actually, I guess that's what life's all about. And as I had this thought, I just suddenly felt like a profound happiness, and I felt like this wave of heat just hit me from my forehead, down the back of my head, down my back, down my arms, and I just had this knowing, like, I just suddenly was aware of, like, oh wow, there's no death, and we just keep reincarnating, and the point of life was just to help each other on the journey, we'd help everyone else on their journey, and just had this clarity, and then as I looked at people as I was having the realization, everybody had these two white lights right in front of their face. It's hard to describe just on audio, but basically it was like two lines that basically they're curved, going from their forehead to their chin, that kind of go out a little bit where the nose is. So basically two lights in front of their head, super bright, so I couldn't look at people's faces, and I was kind of blinded by people. And that went away after a little while, maybe a minute or something, 2 minutes or something. And then after that, I felt totally empathic. So everybody I looked at, I could feel exactly what they were feeling, and I just felt the same thing from every person. I felt they were just lost and had no fucking idea what they were doing here. And I knew in that moment my purpose was to tell everybody that the point is that there's no such thing as death, and we all reincarnate, and we have to. And I had to tell everybody this truth, that we're just here to help each other, and it's all just a journey. And then that faded after a while, and I was back to normal. Yeah, so that was basically the first time where I was like, whoa, dude, something's going on here. Something is afoot. And since then, there have been lots and lots of crazy stuff. It's been ayahuasca and San Pedro and realizations and millions of things. But all that shall be for another time, because I want to get the show on the road. Our first guest is a very special man. I don't mean that in the retarded way. I mean in a good way. There's a lot of stuff I'd like to say about him, but considering we're always talking about how ego is bullshit and we're not really here and et cetera, it's hard not to blow up his ego by talking about him, but I only have nice things to say, so I'll keep it short. This guy has had a fascinating life. He's got several black belts in very different martial arts. He used to be Danish champion in karate, and he's been on the spiritual path for quite some time. He studied with Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, and he's actually an instructor at the Art of Living. So he's had a lot of access to the good stuff, as we call it, and tons of out of this world crazy experiences, and tons of experience also with plant medicines. And actually, for a while, he was a facilitator for Ibogaine, one of the most brutal things you could ever put into your body. So I'm sure he'll have lots of interesting things to say. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Why don't you tell these folks just a little bit about your just backstory? I mean, it's hard to even do an intro for you because you've had such a crazy life. But if you had to put it into 5 minutes, what would you say?
What would I say? Well, as you mentioned, so I did martial arts since I was 9 until I was about 30 years old or something like that. And I was at elite level at one point, and so it was my whole life and thing. And so basically through martial arts, I started experiencing lots of energetic movements in my body and breath and all that stuff. So I got sucked into yogic breath techniques and healing arts, and I did spiritual counseling. I had at one point I had a clinic in Denmark and doing all kinds of new age spiritual therapies, etc., etc. And I was teaching martial arts. I had my own dojo and created my own style at one point. But also, when I was 3 years old, I drowned in a swimming pool and I died, went to the other side, and I saw the whole ascension process that's going to happen here on Earth. And I saw that everything is just a dream. And, our lives are just like a blink of an eye. And I died. So I died basically 4 times. The fourth time was actually doing anesthesia in a hospital about 7-8 months ago, I think. And that was an unconscious death because I didn't even know I was checking out, but I was dead for a couple of minutes. So the last one doesn't really count in my book. But the 3 first, I was conscious on the other side. Like I went through the death experience consciously, and I saw what's on the other side and who we are and all that stuff. I got the download 3 times. And so when I grew up as a child, I was a little bit different than everybody else because I kept on running around telling people that this lifetime is really, really crazy. First of all, I totally knew about reincarnation. And second, I knew that this incarnation was very special for all of us because we're here to witness a huge transformation. And I was just a little kid, and my parents were like, "Yeah, you're eating too much cornflakes." But I grew up feeling very different, and I was always focused on the spiritual side of life. But I also had a very traumatic childhood, so I got very much into drugs and big motorbikes and parties and fighting in the streets and really, really negative stuff. And it wasn't until my second near-death experience when I was 20, 21 that I was shown on the other side that if I continue like this, I'm going to have this kind of life and it's going to end like that. And then I could choose another path and then it's going to be like this. And so I kind of got laid out these 2 pathways. And I came back and there was no doubt in my mind that I need to change. And so I changed everything. I broke up with my girlfriend. I threw out certain illegal substances in the toilet. And I sold my motorbike. I moved to another location. I stopped calling my so-called friends, and I changed out everything. And then it was just pure meditation, Kriya Yoga, breath work, all that stuff. So, I changed my life at age 20, 21 drastically. And then at one point I started exploring a lot of the entheogens, the plant teachers, the ones that are, expanding your consciousness. And I did that on a consistent basis for maybe 15, 20 years, very intensively. And like hundreds and hundreds of journeys behind me of various plants and mushrooms and stuff like that, because I wanted to understand more of what I saw on the other side. And I also wanted to show this to other people. So one thing led to the other. I ended up doing Ibogaine, and the plant teacher came and told me he wanted me to administer him to others. And I was resistant. I didn't want to do that because it was really a horrible journey. I didn't want this for my worst enemy. But the plant teacher came in and asked me 3 times. And in the end, I was like, okay, I'll see. Because also I started seeing the benefits of doing it. It's not so fun doing the process, but afterwards you're feeling so much relief and you're feeling very different. So I connected with a Ibogaine facilitator, and I got mentored over many years, and then I started administering myself to other people. And I did that for a period of 12 years. And that was very, very hard work. It's not as easy as people think it is. And I also do not recommend anyone doing this without an experienced facilitator. And then I basically stopped doing that because it was my time to move on to do other things. And so that's been part of my life. And I was teaching in prisons, Kriya Yoga, meditation, stuff like that. So I've been around the block with all that. I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. I've done all kinds of therapy sessions, and I met all kinds of gurus. I went to India many times and been in many ashrams and done all kinds of initiations and stuff like that. And right now, the only thing I can think about is growing vegetables and planting fruit trees and sun gazing and spring water and stuff like that. So life is becoming very simple now.
Well, yeah, I mean, for the first time Fascinating story, by the way. I mean, I've already heard it, but every time I'm still like, man, this guy, this guy's done a lot of crazy shit. But yeah, dude. I mean, we're out here just on a little patio where I'm staying, and it's super chill. And we were just talking about how the apartment basically that you're in now temporarily, the energy just fucking sucks.
Yeah.
It just sucks, and it's like you're not even aware of like the average energy level and also toxicity of any normal average apartment in the West compared to just being out here where there's just less EMF, everything is cleaner, there's just not that much crap in every aspect of the world. You're just not shit on. It's insane. It's a different world. Like, we've been sitting on your land there, and it's like for the first time ever I've been able to just chill out and like sit and contemplate and get out of my head and into my heart, and it's like another world has opened up.
Yeah. I definitely see lots of transformation happening with you, and it's beautiful to watch because there's always two conversations going on between people. One is the words we are using, and the other one is between the words, like the silence, and most people are missing out on that. And so we need a peaceful environment to learn to tap into that and just tune in and understand that. Like, for example, I can see one of your problems is that your mind will be telling you that you're wasting your time if you're just sitting there doing nothing. And we have been brought up to think like that. And we've been brought up to believe in everything that what the mind tells us. And actually, nothing could be further from the truth. When you're sitting still and you're connecting to yourself through the silence, that's actually not a waste of time. Actually, the other thing is a waste of time. All this noise, all this information, and it's just coming in through one ear and out of the other, and it doesn't really have an impact on anybody with anything. So what this world needs to learn is to relax. Just to relax. No stress, just take a deep breath, sit down and realize all the answers are within you. And just what they call repose in being, just tuning to your being instead of your states of consciousness. And from there, you're going to find that there's a lot of wisdom hidden within you that nobody has to come and tell you about. Like, you have had tons of insights while you've been here.
Dude, I mean, the third week here, but, in the first 2 weeks, just hanging out on the land, so much, dude. Like, I'll just go and just chill out, and then I'll just go, dude! And I'll just get a download. Just some basic things, but, like, when it comes from within, it's just so much more profound than, like, reading a book or someone telling you or teaching. It's just like, it just dawns on you. It's almost like you have access to the information, but we're just cut off from it because we're so, we're in the matrix, basically. The matrix of everything, of the busyness, the running, the doing, the trying to be better than someone, the comparing to somebody, the success, all this crap that, from society. You cannot connect with yourself at all if you're in that. And furthermore, this is why they're shoveling people into apartment buildings that are basically, death traps. They're fucking death traps. And so they don't want you in nature. Because in nature, if you actually get quiet, you're going to see some heavy shit. You're going to realize some things about yourself and about the world and about what's going on, and they don't want that. So the entire system, the entire matrix is designed to keep you separate from nature and separate from yourself, separated from who you really are, what you really are, and separated from each other. That's the entire game. That is the entire game, and you got to get out into nature just to start registering that. Like, it's very difficult to connect with that if you're in it. It's just so hard. Even being here now and thinking about, like, where I was before, like being in London or any major city, it sucks you in, dude. They have done a great job of building the Matrix, man. It's just like the movie. It's so real. You think it's what it is. You think this is what's important, but it's completely fake, all of it. But it's so it's a trap, man. And this is why. The biggest advice I tell anyone who's starting out on the journey and they're kind of waking up and realizing, hey, something's not right here, just get out. Just go anywhere. Yeah. Save up your money, get some credit cards, and then take the money off the credit cards and just fuck off. Go anywhere. Go to Thailand, go to a beach, go somewhere where there's grass. Even if you could just get a month, do it for a month. Just long enough to have that aha moment of like, oh, wait a second.
But away from the tourist areas, because, if you go to Thailand and you end up in a beach where a lot of tourism is going on, you will be confronted with people who want to sell you stuff on the beach.
Right.
And everywhere you go, it's taxis and hotel rooms. And so you're kind of still in the matrix. Yeah, you're getting some sunlight and you're in the ocean grounding, which is great. But you're still in that money consciousness, stress, because other people are at work dealing with you. So I would say get off the beaten path, find a place in the middle of nowhere and just it doesn't have to be monk monastery kind of energy, because there's a lot of beauty, and you can take walks in the mountains, you can communicate with the plants, the animals, and you can also meet some of the locals if there's a little town nearby, and you're gonna discover that they are on a whole different time zone. Like it's just I'll do that, yeah, sure, and then it's 1 week later they will do it, but for them that's quick, and so it's good to do, and I highly recommend it. And if you have job and in the city and you can't leave the city and just move somewhere, well, at least take that holiday just once in a while and just get away. A lot of people are also going and doing silent meditation practice and stuff like that, which is great. But in a way, I mean, I highly recommend it, but it's very different from spending time in nature. Silence meditation is usually with a lot of people. And also, it's very intense. You're working on yourself, so there's a level of stress, maybe not in the body, but in your internal setup. You're on a path of exploration on a very intensive way, because you can't talk and you're meditating all day. Where if you are in nature and you just relax, it's okay to talk and whatever, do whatever you want to do, but just relax. That I think people really need that now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's a difference between any type of doing and complete non-doing. But there's nothing quite like sitting on your land over there on some grass and just staring at the sun and staring at the flowers and the bees landing on the flowers and little worms. Yeah. And just zoning out. You know what I mean? Like that's just a completely different experience than anything.
I just came up to your place right now, and I knocked on the door, and you were just like total high energy and super happy and positive, and you were not even trying. And I was just like, okay, because then you start talking about you just spent 1 hour in the sun gazing, doing yoga, some exercises, and your skin was completely showered in sunlight, and your retina was charged and stuff like that. And I'm just like, okay, so he's on that frequency right now. That's awesome. I mean, and it's such a simple thing. So, when we talk about having these realizations and finding out that the wisdom is within us, it's the most simple things that are the most profound stuff. So, we can have insights that we mentally and intellectually already know, but once they are like embodied on a cellular level, and it may be a simple thing, but it's profound because it's life-changing. And so, those moments are happening spontaneously for me in nature, much more easy than if I'm sitting in some hotel room in a big city or apartment or whatever.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we're kept so busy all the time. This is why cigarettes and booze and the TV shows, the movies, the news, the fear-based stuff, all of this stuff. It's designed so we never have a moment of true peace and quiet and clarity. Never. Even when you're on your own, you're on your phone, you're texting people, you're watching videos. I mean, you're never really in silence. Only when you sleep, you wake up. What do these people do when they wake up? They run to their computer. They start checking their emails. They start checking what's on YouTube. So there is no silence. There's no time with ourselves whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, I started literally, it was almost like, I've paid money for courses and got way, like thousands of dollars, and got way less out of it than a week on your land just staring at butterflies.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
So when you recognize that is the agenda, that's how they keep us separated, get away from it all. Like, just get away from it all. Make a decision to get away.
Yeah.
And I think when people get a little piece of that piece, as funny as that sounds,
they're getting a piece of themselves, actually.
Exactly. And when you get a piece of yourself and you like what you see, you're going to want more. Mm-hmm. And I think from that peace and from that clarity, you can then start thinking, okay, how do I design my life in a way where I have way more of that? Mm-hmm. And I think eventually you'll go, okay, I'm going to go live in some town that's just chill as fuck, where I can, you know what I mean, pick fruit or grow my own food or whatever. People can find a way to make it a reality. But when you haven't even tasted it, you don't even want it. You know, you're happy in fucking New York City or LA or whatever. You're just like, yeah, cool, awesome.
Yeah.
but you know, yeah, it's such a different reality. It really is a different reality. And I used to look at people who lived out in the country and out in the middle of nowhere and be like, look at these farmers and all these fucking, what are they doing out there? They must be bored to death. There's nothing to do. They're just sitting around in their backyard. What are they doing? And I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. You know, fuck the city. I want to sit there in my garden with a book and just look at insects. That's what I want to do. And just realize shit. And that's life.
You caught the bug. You caught the virus.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, once you get it, it's over. It's game over. There's no way I'm going to live in some huge city. There's no way.
Yeah.
And so me and you already talked about this and mapped it out. So I know I'm going to get a nice piece of land somewhere, and you know, when it was somewhere on the outskirts, somewhere out of the way. And when I really want to go to do city stuff, I will. I'll go get on a plane. I'll go over a couple weeks. I'll do my stuff, and then I'll fuck off back to my sanctuary.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll do.
And it's not like cities are all bad. I mean, I enjoy when I'm actually, I do enjoy landing in big cities once in a while and do some shopping of essential stuff that you can't find in the middle of nowhere. I do enjoy that. I also enjoy that there's tons of restaurants and you can get really interesting new foods and stuff like that. I enjoy that. It's great. So it's not all bad, you know. But you know, nurturing the soul is just important, and we've never been taught that. Nobody talked about how to nurture your soul or how to kindle your heart and just take good care of your spirit. And you don't have to run around saying you're some new age spiritual guy who is into all these, you know, wild stuff. I mean, this is just a normal human aspect of reality, which is to nurture the internal spiritual part of you. And we can call it whatever we want, but sitting with a tree, next to a tree for a couple of hours and, you know, just sitting down, looking at the grass, the butterflies and all that stuff. I don't know what we call it. All I know it's a very natural aspect of reality, and we all need to have that experience in our lives. It's very, very important. I remember when I spoke to you, was it a year ago or 2 years ago, and you talked about you had this communication with a tree. You remember that? You talked to a tree and it showed itself to you or something like that?
Yeah, I've had a couple of those experiences, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was the first time I did San Pedro.
Yeah.
Right, and I was flipping out. Yeah.
And for me, that's something we all should have. We should all have this kind of direct communion with Mother Nature and just know, oh, she is alive. She is conscious. Oh, wow. There really is something going on here. It's not just some low-level organism growing here. There's a higher level of intelligence here expressing itself.
Dude, since I seen you last, I don't think I actually told you the story. But I was in Toronto back in September with one of my spiritual teachers, and she gave me this book, amazing book I would recommend to anyone, called Ritual by Malidoma Somé, who's African, I guess shaman in your tribe's leader, you can call him, but he's a really cool dude. And in their tribe, man, it's a fucking crazy book, but they talk about how actually the spirit, they live their entire lives working on communicating with the spirit, that their ancestors, when they die, they know that they're on their property. They communicate with their ancestors all the time. They have visions of their ancestors coming and telling them stuff, giving them information, how to grow things.
Oh, really?
About other tribes who are threatening them. Dude, there's fucking crazy
is that
shit.
In that book you gave me?
Dude, read the book.
Okay, I'm gonna read it.
But it's crazy. And so one of the things I did tell you about it was that the grandfather of Malidoma, who was he was like, you know, really, really powerful in the tribe, and he was the elder. And one of the things he said that you thought was interesting was, you know, he said, don't worry about the body. Ignore the body. Feed the spirit. He wouldn't even let his kids eat until they were so hungry they couldn't function. Then he'd say, okay, then go eat. But he would just completely ignore the body. The body isn't even important, and it would just all be about the spirit for him. So maybe that's a bit of an extreme, but there's a lesson there. And certainly in the West, we completely ignore the spirit. There isn't even, people don't even know what that word means, spirit. You know, so it's fascinating. And one of the crazy stories in that book was that Malidoma was actually kidnapped by Christian missionaries. You know, this is in Africa, so he basically at age, I think, 5 or something, or 6 or around there, he was kidnapped, and he grew up as indoctrinated into whatever it was, Catholicism or Christianity, one of those. Believe they were Catholics, and so he escaped when he was 18 years old. He runs back to his village, and he's like, "Hey, I'm back!" And they're looking at him like, who the fuck is this guy? And there was a whole argument of whether he should be initiated because he's, is he really one of them anymore? And as they were chilling, he was chilling out with the other members of his tribe. And it came up in conversation that he wasn't able to see the spirit of the tree. And the other people in the tribe were like, "Are you fucking serious, dude? What are they teaching you over there? You can't even see the spirit of the tree? What are you retarded?" Like they were flipping out.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Oh man, I'm really behind here. What's going on?" So he sat there for the whole day staring at the tree. And finally, at the end of the day, he saw the spirit of the tree, and he flipped out, and completely changed who he was in his reality. And he, eventually, he ended up integrating, and everything was cool. But and so after that story, I was kind of like, okay, obviously, of course, trees have spirits too. That makes sense. And I just thought to myself, you know what? I'm gonna, I went jogging a little bit in Toronto, and I thought, I'm gonna try and have a chat with the tree. I'm gonna see if I can have some communication here, just as an experiment. So I stopped jogging. I got in front of this big ass tree in a park. Fake nature, as I like to call it. It's a real tree, but it's
still nature.
It's still nature, but it's like nature surrounded by fucking cement buildings, But and I just stood there and I said, "Okay, tree, show me your spirit." And I stood there for a minute or two, and nothing happened. And I said, "Come on, tree, I know you're alive. I know you see. I know you know I'm here. Show me your spirit." And I just stood there for another minute or two. And then suddenly I noticed subtly there was like a hardcore twitching happening between my small and smallest knuckle right on my left hand. But it was, like if somebody, sometimes you get an electric, like a buzzing in your head, like a twitching buzzing, but it feels like almost someone pokes you with electricity. Mm-hmm. Like bzzz, I don't know, like a hardcore twitching in your body where like, whoa, that's weird. Like you might get that a couple of times in your life. I've only ever had it a couple of times in my life. So I noticed that and I looked at it and it dawned on me, I was like, okay, let's try this again. And I looked at the tree and I was like, "Tree, show me your spirit." And as soon as I said it, bzzz, my hand started buzzing again, like really hardcore, like electricity in my fingers. And I was like, "Okay," and it stopped. And I'm like, "All right, I'm just gonna do it again. Tree, show me your spirit." Bzzz, again, 3 times, like hardcore, like my whole hand was buzzing with like this electricity, like hardcore twitching. And I was like, "Holy fuck, okay, all right, that's you, awesome." And I think I did it the 4th time. I was like, "Just one more time, just for fun." Bzzz,
Yeah.
So the tree was basically saying, "Hey, I'm here." That was its way of communicating.
Basically, the tree is saying, "Come on, you blind moron! Can't you see me?"
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, he's fucking blind.
He's retarded.
I'm gonna have to do something.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna electroshock his hand.
It electroshocked my fucking hand, 3 or 4 times. I can't remember now, but it's crazy. But it was really hardcore. And after that, I was like, and I guess it was because I couldn't see it, so it was like, all right, I'm gonna fucking give this asshole a signal. And then I was like, okay, cool. So I said thanks to the tree, and then it was weird, man. After I started running around, dude, and I started looking at the other trees and all the nature, I could feel they were looking at me, dude. They were all aware, because I was now aware of nature, and I knew that we could communicate, so I could feel the presence. Like, all of nature was like, oh, cool, this guy knows what's up. This guy's actually paying attention, and I almost, like, became, after that, part of everything, because it knew me. Yeah. And I could literally look at trees, and they were literally, their energy was like, "Hey, man," right at me. I was like, "Whoa, dude, they're looking at me. This is creepy."
Yeah.
So I was running around just with this awareness of like, oh, everything is alive, dude.
It is.
And that was no drugs. Like I've had that. I was no drugs. I was just me consciously trying to talk to the tree.
Yeah.
And so that was fucking cool. And literally for 2 days after that, there was energy in that hand, like just this, like I could feel it, like whoa, like something, poked me, dude. It was crazy, and then it faded out after a couple of days. So that's not, like, again, to me, that's not that crazy a story, but to your normal person in everyday fucking Matrix life, like talking to a tree and having it electrocute me to say hi, I guess it's crazy for them, but that's just what it is. They're out, they're alive.
For me, it is a profound story, because it is an establishment of your connection to nature that is becoming more and more conscious. And so, and that has much bigger consequences in your life than most people realize. It's a very, very important step. We're talking about grounding all the time in spirituality. You have to ground yourself, be grounded, and put the roots in the ground, all that stuff. Well, it begins with something like that, That's where it begins. With communicating with nature, the trees, the birds, and all that stuff. And then connecting with the Father Sky, the sun, with sun gazing. Take off your clothes and get some sunlight on your skin, and now you are the conduit of the Mother Earth and Father Sky, and you're the child in between, the conduit, the link, and it's a very important process to go through in your life. a lot of people are so disconnected, and even on a spiritual path, they're still running around, and they're super educated about lots of stuff, what's going on in space and extraterrestrials and conspiracies and all that stuff, and they're totally ungrounded. They have they have no connection to their own deeper nature.
We'll be talking about all that stuff you just said in later episodes. We're not discounting any of that stuff, but yeah, grounding is super important.
Yeah, it is.
You can, dude. I felt it sometimes, like, 'cause it's one of the things they say for jet lag. Which, by the way, we've learned a lot more stuff about jet lag that we'll bring up at some point. But they say, get your feet on the grass for 20 minutes before or after, and I've done it, man, where I'm like, okay, I need to ground, and I'll sit there and I can feel. It happened a year ago on your land here, where I was flipping out because I stood there for 20 minutes and I felt such an energy and such a grounding and such a relaxing, like sinking into the ground, where I was flipping out, dude. I didn't want to leave the land. I was like, no, dude, I'm not going. I'm staying here. It's profound. It's the simplest thing in the world. Get your feet on the grass, but you can have a spiritual, mystical, religious experience just having your feet on the ground and just consciously putting your thoughts into the ground and just connecting with the earth. It's wild.
Yeah.
95% of people have never had that experience.
No.
It's insane.
Yeah,
it's the most basic thing in the world, just to have a little consciousness, stand on the grass and just connect with Mother Earth.
Yeah.
They haven't done it.
Yeah, I remember, I think a couple of years ago, I was sitting under the tree and on a tree stump. But I took off my shoes and I put my feet in the ground, and it was hitting the soil directly. And I was just sitting there meditating and chilling out, listening to the birds. And then after a couple of minutes, my feet start buzzing. And then after a couple of more minutes, it was like that electric shock you talked about. I had that going through my feet nonstop. It was just crazy. I was just like, what is going on? And I knew there's some profound healing going on. So I was just sitting there for 30 minutes, 1 hour, and just totally grounding myself. Very, very beautiful experience. And actually the human body is designed in such a way that a lot of our toxins are being released through the feet. And so we are detoxing ourselves electrically and also chemically through the feet. And Mother Earth loves to help us do that. And most of the time we're just running around with the soles on our feet or in concrete buildings on the 5th floor, or sitting inside cars, or so we're not really grounded. And it's all asphalt, concrete, etc., etc. So no wonder we're not, connected to the earth.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's really brutal. It's so easy too. Just run outside, even if you live in some city. You can find a little bit of grass, right? And the beautiful thing is, it's still connected to the ground. Even if it's just a bit of a park, you can still do it. You can go out in your lunch and just sit your ass on the grass, for 20 minutes. And also, you can just buy shoes. I've got Vibrams, which are almost grounding. They're almost the same as being barefoot. But there's special shoes you could get that are grounding shoes, where you're actually not separating yourself from the ground. It's amazing. So you can get those shoes, and it makes a huge difference in your life. Yeah. Because if you have normal shoes, like running shoes or whatever, you're completely disconnected. But for not that much money, you can have shoes where you do connect. So it's pretty interesting.
And this is just my opinion. I don't have scientific backup for it, but this thing with the grounding sheets, like if you live on the 5th floor and you have a grounding sheet, you plug it into the ground and the socket and all that stuff, and now you're grounded. To me, that doesn't. It matters, and it helps in certain ways with the EMF and stuff like that, but it doesn't give you the grounding experience of real touching Mother Earth. So if you're living in a very high apartment building up on everything above 2nd floor, make it a habit to just go out in bare feet and ground in some park somewhere as often as possible.
Yeah, it's super important. Yeah, dude, great point. And again, it's just it's hard to put into words when you're not grounded and you're running around. You're always up in your head and you're always thinking. It's hard even to imagine what it's like not to be in that state, if you know what I mean. But as you get into that state in nature and you actually ground with the earth and you just chill out, it's so intricately. I can't even say the word intricately. It's so. I'm so relaxed I can't even speak. That's how chill I am, which is awesome. It's so intricately. I can't do it, dude. I can't literally. I'm just too chill, dude. I can't even talk. English was like my first language, and I can't say intricately at this point. But it's so intricately connected to, I think, getting into the heart as well, right? It's all one big separation. So when you ground and you chill and you relax and you connect with the earth, it's like your brain just starts to slow down. Your brain just kind of you just slow down, and as the brain shuts off, then you can get into the heart.
Yes.
You see, and that's what's happened to me just for the first time, honestly, in the last few weeks, where I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then in that space, I just want to love. And this is the thing, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in the future, but when you're in the heart just wants to love, man. The heart it loves everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. You're just like you just see the good in everybody, and you want to love everybody because that's all it is. But in the head's got all the bullshit, all the judgments, comparing the whole matrix runs up in the head.
Yeah.
So the way out of the matrix is just to get into the heart.
Yeah.
And I think the first step of that is to get the fuck out and get in nature. And then that gives you the opportunity to slow your brain down, slow down the programming, and just get in there. Because it's almost like a shortcut. It's interesting because, one of the things many things I've been talking about over the years is how to exit the matrix, the programming from your parents and society and all this blah, 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 blah. And it does help getting aware of these things and the money system and all this kind of stuff. But dude, the shortcut is if you just get into your heart, all that stuff is bullshit. You see the whole matrix for what it is. As soon as you get into the heart, all that stuff's irrelevant. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? So it's like a secret shortcut. It's like you want enlightenment. Fuck everything. Get into nature. Seriously, fuck all the bullshit. Get into nature. Breathe. Do some breathing. Get into your heart, and when you can actually connect with that energy, you see everything for what it is, and then there's nothing to do but leave.
Yeah, and life becomes very simple, and the true knowledge, the organic knowledge, appears easily and is available for you at any time and any moment.
It occurs to me, like, how would you? Somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, what the do you mean getting into the heart? What does that even mean? Our brain is how we do everything and think and talk. How would you even try and put it into words? What does that even mean to get into the heart? How would we try and put that across?
Well, first you have to be very quiet in your mind to even begin to understand what this means. And so, it actually begins. Imagine you're sitting in an apartment and you're playing heavy metal at a pretty loud volume all the time, and then one day you just turn it off, and suddenly you can hear that another stereo system has been playing this beautiful meditation music the whole time, and you didn't even notice it because you couldn't hear it. So basically, for me to talk about that music, the song of your heart, your heart is actually singing all the time. But for me to start talking about that, you would have to turn down the heavy metal music first to understand what I'm talking about. You have to be quiet first. And so that's why I'm talking about nature all the time, because I can only talk about what works for me. And for me, it works to be in nature and check out with everything, just leave everything behind, just sit there and be simple. That works for me. And I've had a hard time doing those things in a city, big cities. I can't do that. So, but there's other people out there who have no problem doing that, and that's great, awesome. So, but the whole thing begins with being quiet in your mind, because then the thing is, as soon as the mind is void and empty and there's nothing going on, something else becomes apparent. And that something else is the space of the heart, your heart, the field of your heart. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of science writing about this. If you go into the HeartMath Institute, you will see all kinds of awesome scientific experiments they've been doing on the physical heart and also the magnetic field it's creating, and et cetera, et cetera. And if you go into the more metaphysical, esoteric knowledge about the heart, that's a whole different rabbit hole we can go down, and it's profound information, and I would love to talk about this maybe in another podcast because it's a huge topic. But the danger with all that also is that then it turns into a mental understanding and education again, is except of it should be experiential. If it's not experiential, it's just another, bunch of information, and it doesn't really make a difference. So I think it's basics, meditation, being in nature, and just breathing deeply, and spend time with friends, and slowly that will reveal itself.
Awesome. I think that's a good place for people to start, and a good place for us to end the first podcast.
Okay.
That's beautiful. So, dude, thanks so much for coming on, and I have a feeling we'll be seeing you again very shortly.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, peace out, world. We will see you guys in the next one. Ciao.
Ciao.